Hello, hello. This is like the third time that I've gone on to being live today. My name is Kevin Michael Grace, and this is the KMG Show. So, this is my first show in 4 days when I was in that horrible hotel in Victoria. Now, as you can see, I'm not in a horrible hotel. I'm in a different place. But I have to say that I've been spending a lot of time considering my suffering, such as it is. And at the same time that I've been doing that, I've been reading Pierce Paul Reed's book about Captain Alfred Dreyfus. And I finished that a few days ago, and I'm reading again Alan Walker's biography of Liszt in 3 volumes. And it occurs to me that we don't really understand suffering the way that it was understood in the 19th suffering. Alfred Dreyfus spent 4 years on Devil's Island. Yes, literally Devil's Island. Um, for something that he didn't do. And worst of all, about, I would say, a year into this, the French army knew that he was innocent and that Esterhazy was guilty of being the traitor, and the French army decided that they would double down on Dreyfus because it would be too embarrassing to admit that they had been caught out by a different traitor. I may have talked on the show about my difficulties with my children. And reading about Liszt, I'm thinking I'm an amateur here. His son Daniel, at the age of 15, won a prize, several prizes, for being the best scholar of all the students of Britain. He was also a beautiful boy who reminded everyone who ever saw him as Liszt as he was as a young man. He died at the age of 20 of tuberculosis. Um, Liszt's daughter Blandine also died in her 20s. Her husband, again, they say that truth is stranger than fiction. Well, it's better than fiction in terms of, what you can say, what you can't say. Liszt's son-in-law became briefly Prime Minister of France, which again is the sort of thing. If you put that into a book, if you put that in a script, it just seems absolutely ridiculous. But then, even before you get into Cosima, his daughter, who married Liszt's greatest student, Hans von Bülow, and abandoned him for Richard Wagner. And I suppose later, when I talk about on the book club, Alan Walker's biography of Liszt, it's an astonishing thing, that Liszt, who of course Wagner was beholden to for money, for everything that Liszt had done to him, also for the Tristan chord, which the Wagnerians don't like to talk about. But the fact that Liszt died in Bayreuth, abandoned by all his friends, all his students, by the priest, it's a remarkable story. But there we are. There we are. Truth, as they say, is stranger than fiction. So let's go to the Let's go to the chat here. No, I'm sorry. Before we go to the chat, I'm sorry. I'm a bit run out today. It's taking me 3 days here to set myself up, to pull up my computer, to get a internet connection, and all the rest of it. You know. Oh, well, maybe I go to the here to the chat. I see just like 3 things. Well, how about that? Maybe everyone is bored with me. Have you had a drink, Kevin? Yes, I have. Indeed, I have. This is not a drink. This is tea. This is Indian or Chinese tea or whatever it is. YT says, hello, all. KMG looks like a clud with eyes again. Nice looking room indeed. It is a nice looking room. I can't say anything more than that. Nice dig, says Metal Mike. Yeah, very nice digs. They're not my digs. And again, I am the Flying Dutchman of the live stream. Indeed, one might say, if one wanted to go out on a limb, that I am the wandering Jew of the live stream. But there you are. Love the power suit, says Michael. Mike. The advantage of wearing this thing that I'm wearing now is that you don't know what I'm wearing underneath, and essentially it's a bathing suit because it is about 90 degrees Fahrenheit here. It is absolutely abominable. And it occurred to me today, I don't have to really, follow through on the whole suit, tie, shirt thing. What is underneath there, none of you can see. And so I just decided I'm not going to be sweating throughout the whole of the show. Greetings from Montreal. All the best, Kevin, says Jeffrey Pye. Liquid lunch? No, not really. It's just that since I left Victoria on Friday, which you haven't heard of, there's just been a series of things where I just thought that everything would turn out wrong. And I'm not really a very strong person in that regard. I'm not one of those people who thinks that everything is going to turn out right. I'm one of those people, the half glass full, half empty. I'm really a half glass empty kind of guy. And for me to get from where I was in this hotel room in Victoria to where I am now, and to get everything, set up as it was, it just seemed rather impossible to me. But it's mostly true, except that I can't get my speakers to work. I just can't get my speakers to work. Let's see. No, show us our that's not going to happen. You see this? See this? This is a new jacket. This is a new tie. No, that's not going to happen. I'm staring at dead air and KMG in a shirt, says Cocokin 666. Again, I have some access here to some new shirts, some new jackets, some new ties, etc., etc. I won't go into specifics. Let's just say that I'm here in a secure and undisclosed location. Let's put it that way. Actually, it happens to be true, YT says, KMG, where are you? Well, I'm not going to tell you because I've been informed that I should not say that. All right. There's something going on within my family, which I've been alluded to before. I won't go into any more difficulty about that. It's just, no, no, I can't. Sounds ridiculous, but there we are. Let's talk about something else here. And I love to talk about Jim Kunstler. So let's talk about Jim Kunstler here. Let's talk about his Monday column. I would have to say before I go into Kunstler's column that he seems to be one of those people who is very rational, And I used to be a very rational person myself, but then the world sort of knocked the rationality out of me. I found myself saying, no, this couldn't possibly happen. And it happened. And oh no, if this happens, then the result would be, yeah, you know what? Apparently our politicians can do anything and get away with it, In the United States, it's a little different. Come to Canada. Come to Canada, where our prime minister is a retarded boy child, was corrupted to the essence. And now we want to really be mean to him because he's like retard, right? Anyway, here's Jim Kunstler's column today. Don't the Democrats know that we can do better in the mail-in voting? How about a national show of hands? Say around 4 p.m. on Tuesday, November 3rd, just after lunch for West Coasters and after nappy time back east. Ready, set, hands up, don't shoot. It's just a voice vote. All in favor of blank, say aye. Wouldn't that be the most heartwarming moment since Michael Jackson led the all-star chorus of War of the World? I'm starting to understand exactly how Dems put the idea that voter ID amounts to voter suppression. I suppose it's just an instance of the old Joe Good principle that they lie big enough times, people will take it for the truth. The nation used to be immune to these assaults on reason and decency so easily employed by despotic regimes, and now that the Dems have gone full Orwell here, you see how easy it is to bamboozle the home folks. War is peace, freedom is slavery, uniformity, vote early and often, and all that. Truly, in New York State, registers to vote. You send a document and submit it to the local board. Long regarded as a logical and necessary obligation of citizenship, like registering a car or a deed to a property. On election day, you go to a polling place, and the volunteer official in a big book of alphabetized names, and voila, there you are, along with the record of your signature, going back through all the elections you have lived in that voting district. You are who you claim to be, and you get to vote. Through the 1984 election cycles I've lived through, nobody objected to this until very recently, when the Democrats realized that the more than 10 million illegal immigrants they jammed through the border could be enlisted in service to the party's elections. In states controlled by the Democrats, like California, it works like a charm to ensure one-party rule, and then one-party rule works like a charm to bankrupt and destroy the state in a feeding frenzy of entitlement freebies. And now they seek to use the same method to destroy the nation as a whole. In New York's June 23rd primary, the year of coronavirus, 21% of May were invalidated by the Board of Elections for arriving late or leaking a postmark or a voter signature. 84,000 in all. Reminder, this is a country that used to send officials like former President Jimmy Carter around the world to instruct less developed peoples on how to hold a fair election. Perhaps Cameroon and Tajikistan send some counselors to New York and North Carolina now. The object of this new scam apparently is to so severely cripple the vote counting process that the hopelessly botched election will be thrown into the House of Representatives, where a Democratic majority can see to producing the correct outcome. There are a few things possibly wrong with this game plan. One is that the Democratic Party candidates might lose despite mass voting fraud, because most of the fraud will be perpetuated in states that were expected to go blue anyway, namely California, New York, and New Jersey. A more ominous outcome might be that they will ignite Civil War II, with this final of a long series of insults to common decency against their political rivals. Most politically, the 4-year seditious coup to overthrow the winner of the last national election, Russiagate, Muellergate, Ukrainegate, etc. Nancy Pelosi has called Congress back from its campaign recess to convene next Saturday after her party's nominating convention to try to lay whatever ground wake she can to use the mail-in vote controversy to invalidate the election. This assumes that the Dems can get through their attention without some humiliating crack-up. For instance, if enough delegates break through the emperor's new closed wall of Cyrus that has protected their mentally incapacitated putative nominee, Joe Biden, so far, and just say no. Sometimes in U.S. history, party conventions go a long way despite the best laid plans of party bosses. William Jennings Bryan, age 36, hijacked the 1896 Democratic Convention with his rousing Cross of Gold speech. In 1912, a fracas between the forces of incumbent President Taft and former President Teddy Roosevelt provoked TR to break away and run a progressive party ticket. Taft and Roosevelt split the vote, and Woodrow Wilson was elected president. Such a brawl hasn't happened late as the convention formalities ossified and it became a large lawsuit. But the Dodge primary Biden, especially the Super Tuesday vote, seriously elevated him from the crypt of loserdom to the triumph of the undead, was probably an act of DNC-sponsored vote fraud. And since that business was all seemingly settled, Biden has gone on to demonstrate his falling on his face whenever they dare to trundle him out of the fabled basement. And so today, the Democrats' janky-ass Zoom National Convention opens in Internet Nowheresville, and God knows what virtual shenanigans may be in store, since the stage is set for all manner of spoofish fakery. If it comes down to it, Biden's acceptance speech is certain to be a marvel of pre-recorded post-production wizardry. They won't dare him allowed to do it live al fresco. But they'll have to tell the viewing audience that the speech was pre-recorded. And if they don't, you can be certain the fact will come out pronto. And when it does, that may be enough to sink the fake candidacy of the old grifter from Scranton. Meanwhile, what's going on in Clinton's Chappaqua Castle Keep? Surely a lot of vodka guzzling, but what else? Are instructions emanating or threats? Rumor is that the designated vice president candidate, Ms. Harris, who is installed at HRC's insistence, are we coming to that magic moment when she will not be thwarted, kicks doddering old Job and swoops top spot on an Al Gal Williams suffering edition can't use ticket? I can't bear the suspense. Okay, so is KMG on dot? What did anyone ask that? For several weeks now, for several months, everyone's been complaining about how like crappy my live stream is. It seems pretty good now, doesn't it? Look at me. Look at me. It looks pretty vicious, one might say. The Babcast says Kevin Michael go on Michael Malcolm's interviews with banned people. I don't know whether that would be such a good idea. Because, you know, I'm not banned. And I don't really look forward to being banned. Where did Mistopheles' looks go, says the Babscast. No, I thought you were talking about goodness, Mistopheles. The camera is grainy, that's what I meant. Is it? My point of view, it looks outstanding, but I bought the $60 camera rather than the $100 camera. That was like back in the day when I was still on Luke Freud's show. Jim Smith says, Luke says he can't take any more Jim Kunstler, but he could do it on the show. Well, what can you say? That pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? Jim Kunstler is, I don't want to go a whole Jewish thing, but Jim Kunstler is like, he's outstanding, you know. He searches the truth wherever he finds it. And I cannot rate anyone higher than that, you know. Claire Koss says, Luke is streaming you, Kevin. I don't know what that means. I really don't know what that means. Justin Proto says, the Dems hope to achieve a techno-feudalism, taking money and orders from uber rich, inviting in a third world workers who can climb the status later and completely eviscerate the American middle. Well, okay. This has been fairly obvious for the longest time, hasn't it? It's the whole point of H-1B. Oh, yes, Americans, they no longer know how to do computer programming. Well, of course they do. No, we're going to get a bunch of people from India here. Are they really very good at it? It doesn't matter. It turns out that for the most part, they're really shitty at it. But they work for almost nothing. That's the point. You ever read about IBM? What happened to IBM? That IBM was famous not for innovation. For decades, IBM was famous for service. And IBM was involved in, how would you say, practices which were, well, illegal. Essentially, oh yes, our competitors say that they have a new computer which is going to be much better than ours. And IBM would say, oh no, we're coming up with that same computer in a couple of months. But you have that connection to us. And we have the service that they don't because they're newcomers. IBM under, what's her name? Jida, what her name? They sent all the service out to India, and guess what? It all turned to shit. It all turned to shit. But it's all a short-term thinking. I talked about Hewlett-Packard on the stream before. Hewlett-Packard was one of the companies that was most adored North America. I could mention Boeing in that regard, you know. But who cares about that? Who cares about a reputation? Who cares about a reputation that is decades long that people say, no, I'm going to go with that company, regardless of price, because these people are committed to quality. Nah, quality. Who needs quality? Jim Smith says, once again, Gloria Steinem comes to mind. We becoming the man we wanted to marry. Okay. If Kevin lights up a smoke, then I will know he is free, says Metal Mike. If you want to go back there, I can light up a smoke. But I really don't think that this line here from my microphone is going to lead all that way. Okay. Hey, look pretty good here. And I'd like to be able to smoke, you know, but I can't do it. It's not possible, you know. We're living in bad times, very, very bad times. But I suppose we have to make the best of what we can. Isn't that what Sting sang in this song? When the world is going down, we have to make the best of going round. Isn't that what he sang? Something like that. And I agree with that. YT says, haha, I was temporarily suspended from Twitter for using the word retarded in relation, yeah, okay, to something or other. Kevin is secure accommodation. That's a very special meaning in the UK. No, it actually is a reference to, if you recall, after 2001, that President George W. Bush just fucking disappeared. Just absolutely shameful. Absolutely shameful. Washington, D.C. was in an absolute panic, and he wasn't there. Okay, so where's Dick Cheney? Oh no, Dick Cheney is in an unknown and secure location. I remember reading something that David Frum had written that day, that people were pouring out from their office buildings in Washington in absolute panic, and who was in charge? Nobody. Nobody was in charge. This went on for weeks afterwards. Dick Cheney, oh, he's in a secure, undiscovered location. Dick Cheney? Are you kidding me? What is that guy worth? He's worth nothing. He's the vice president of the United States. But everyone put up with it, you know? Metal Mike says to Conrad Black, take you in. No. I wrote a piece for Chronicles magazine circa 2006 where I delineated Conrad Black's crimes. And a year or two later, I was on a CBC television show on Sunday morning, where I was the first person to say that Conrad Black could go to prison. And they all mocked me. Yeah, well, it's one of those situations where if I could say, hey, I was right and you were wrong, so you have to, you know, move me the scheme, okay, I'd be at the top, right? Conrad Black signed a consent decree with the Security and Exchange Commission back in with us ever again. Because if you do, you will go to prison. That's what happened to Conrad Black. You know, he got off doing something which was flagrantly legal, and instead of saying, "Yeah, I won't do that again," decided that they didn't try me. You know, I'll do it again. Okay, so since the lighting is really good and KMG is helping it, I'm glad to hear that. After all of the complaints for the last few weeks, how terrible my presentation is. I don't know, I'm looking at myself here, and I can't hear the audio, obviously, but I'm looking at the presentation, I'm thinking it looks outstanding. But what else we got? Whiskey in the tea? No, there's no whiskey in it. It's just chutney. That's all it is. Let's see. William Hicks says, Kevin, you have a great opportunity to grow your audience, but coming on inebriated. Oh dear. Am I inebriated? Oh, okay. I don't think so. I'm. If you remember back when I was Luke for its biggest appreciation I ever got when I was the most outrageous. You want to see me inebriated? I can do it, all right? But I'm not inebriated now, you know, because if I were, you would know it. So let's look elsewhere in the news, all right? Let's go to the Budge report. Let's go to, we'll take a look at pardoning Edward Snowden. This is from Forbes. There was someone, we end this right now, possible reason for signing, okay? Again, text. And there are spontaneous texts. I've heard on TV presenting a journalist and what's called a traitor. I'm going to look at that very strongly, Trump said during a press briefing Saturday, treated differently, and other people think he did very bad things. The president's willingness to even consider a pardon leaves away from his hardline stance on the issue of 2013 before he was president, when he tweeted Snowden was a traitor and a spy who should be executed. Snowden himself weighed in, saying the last time we heard a White House considering a pardon was 2016, when the very same Attorney General who once charged me conceded that on balance, my work in exposing the NSA's unconstitutional system of mass surveillance had been a public service. There are a lot of people that think that he is not being treated fairly. I mean, I hear that, Trump said in an interview with the New York Post on Thursday. How about Julian Assange? Okay. Hasn't Julian Assange gone through enough? I would think so. I don't know how many votes that Trump would get by pardoning Julian Assange, but I think that it would have a bigger effect than that. That is to say that there's so many people who think that Trump is, you know, a jerk, or I could say nastier words than that. But if he pardoned Julian Assange, then I think there's not an insignificant amount of people that would be drawn to him for that reason. Okay, I'm looking at Portland here. Andy No, the brave Andy No, is reporting on people getting the shit beaten out of them in Portland. This is the moment immediately before the mob assaults him and makes him sit in the ground while they search his belongings. When he stands up, they brutally beat him. You know, this is really the end of the line. It really is. Because what do you expect from government? People complain about paying their taxes, you know, they complain about regulations. But they expect that, you know, law is going to be enforced at the end of it. Portland, Seattle, and other cities, no, it's gone. It's completely gone. So why are people paying their taxes? Why is anyone obeying any laws? Why? Why would you do that when the city decides that, nah, we're just going to let a bunch of thugs beat people up and try to murder people in a federal building? Maybe this is Trump's genius, you know. There was a academic who got sacked from his job a few weeks ago when he pointed out that the riots of 1968 were very bad for the Democratic Party and very good for the Republican Party. So maybe that's the way that it's going to work out now. But I can't imagine how the Democratic Party is going to present itself to the people of America when, oh no, yeah, we're absolutely in favor of, thugs smashing things and trying to mass murder people and such like. Let's see, I'm reminded by Monterey Peninsula College of the case of Reginald Denty. Paramedics who attended Denny said he suffered major trauma and came very close to dying. Soon after Green took him to the hospital, Denny suffered a seizure. His skull was fractured in 91 places and pushed into his brain. His left eye was so badly dislocated that it would have fallen into a sinus cavity had the surgeons not replaced the crushed bone with a piece of plastic. A permanent crater remains in his forehead despite efforts to correct it. Denny suffered a fractured skull and impairment of his speech and ability to walk, for which he underwent years of rehabilitative therapy. After unsuccessfully suing the city of Los Angeles, Denny moved to Arizona, where he was an independent boat mechanic and has mostly evaded media conduct. On May the 12th, outgoing Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates started a search for three of Denny's attackers, who were identified from the video of the beating. Gates himself arrested Damian Williams, while other officers arrested Hanny Watson and Antoine Miller. Soon afterward, Gary Williams gave himself up to the police. The four arrested men were suspected to be part of the 83rd Gangster Crips. On August 9, 1993, a jury of 5 whites, 3 blacks, 3 Latinos, and 1 Asian was chosen. On August 19th, Deputy District Attorney Lawrence Morrison delivered the opening statement, and a week later, the videotape of the beating was shown. The doctors who treated Denny testified, describing his wounds and their efforts to repair them. Next to testify were witnesses of the beating and Denny's recusers. The defense began pleading on September 20th, making a case for unpremeditated assault, with Fall challenging the video evidence and portraying Williams as a victim of poverty and racism. In the closing arguments, the defense attorneys claimed that Williams and Watson were being used as scapegoats for the LA riots. The prosecution counter-argued that the two had knowingly tried to kill Denny and were not victims. Gary Williams' lawyers successfully argued that he had not intended to kill Denny. He was not found guilty of attempted murder, assault, and aggravated mayhem, and convicted of 4 misdemeanors and simple mayhem. Damian Williams was denied bail and sentenced to a maximum of 10 years for the assaults of Denny and 4 other people on December 9th, 1993. He was paroled after serving 4 years of his 10-year sentence. Watson was convicted of a single misdemeanor assault charge. Watson was given credit for time served and was sentenced for 3 years probation for the assaults of Denny and truck driver Larry Tarrant. Judge John Odekirk granted Miller a separate trial on the grounds that the strong evidence against Watson and Damian Williams could harm his case. Miller was sentenced to 17 months in jail and 27 months on probation. So what's the, what do you learn here? ABA, as I've said before. Always be avoiding. You do not want to get yourself into a situation where, how would I say, the glorious people of Black Lives Matter are going to beat the shit out of you, because the authorities are going to look for any kind of excuse to not prosecute them. It's that simple. Of course, this is not really new in the United States. Black people have been beating the shit out of white people for decades. And if you're looking for justice, you're not likely to find it. You're really not likely to find it. So the answer is ABA. Always be avoiding. And you think, oh, I see these people here, and if I cross the street, I don't want to cross the street, this is going to make me a sissy or whatever. Well, maybe you should consider yourself a sissy, rather than find yourself in a situation where you're going to have to fight for your life, and then when you do, the authorities are going to pin you as the villains. This is the truth. This is the truth of America. Oh yes, black people are terrified of white people. No, it's exactly the opposite. White people are terrified of black people for two different reasons. The first being that they're going to be severely beaten, crippled, killed, whatever, and the police aren't going to care. And if the police do care, it's too late. Second, that they're going to be accused of racism, for which, oh my God, yeah, they'll be accused of racism. How do I come back against this? Well, you don't, because there isn't. There's no comeback against this. So once again, my advice to you is ABA. Always be avoiding. I was going to go through the news here on the Drudge Report. Let's see. California facing largest power outage in its history. Blackout for millions. Yeah, there's a shocker. California is sinking into the ocean in front of our eyes. California is, well, what's considered the highest point in civilization. And now it's all disappearing. It's all just slipping away. And why would any be shocked about that? Pentagon warns about hand sanitizers after an employee lit on fire. Did that really happen? It sounds very amusing, actually. Heat wave sends thousands to San Francisco beaches. Corona is alive. Well, it is if you're, say, younger than like 50 or 60 or 70 or actually 80. You know, it is alive. Oh no, ongoing party in Alabama. You see, these horrible young people insist on being young and having fun when the words come down that fun has been banned forever, because there's a virus out there. Now there are viruses out there every single year, but our new totalitarian leaders have decided that young people are not allowed to have fun anymore. Michigan College will digitally track students at all times. How so? Do they have, is this put into them? Is it? Forecasts offer somber outlook. Yeah, well, that's what we get from Drudge. President pushing oleander extract as cure. Never mind that. Romney slams Trump over death toll. Das ewige Mormon. I suppose that for well over 100 years, Americans thought that Mormons were, well, they got this weirdo religion that's not really Christianity, but they're all right. They're not all right. Mormons are not all right. Um, Typical Mormons today are looking to overrun the United States with foreigners, and Mitt Romney is quite possibly the most disgusting man that lives in the country of the United States of America. Warp speed vax push lacks key ingredient. What? What? What does that even mean? Horrifying data glitch skews key Iowa metrics. Again, I'm kind of at a loss to understand that. Symptoms appear in certain order: fever, cough, muscle pain. This has been known since what, January? Sharon Stone blames non-mask wearers as sister hospitalized. Sharon Stone. Remember Sharon Stone? I do want to mock Sharon Stone because she has made excellent performances in several movies. But Sharon Stone, medical expert? No. Chiefs announced plans to have fans at NFL season opener. Wow, that would be exciting. Imagine when we used to have sports games and people showed up to cheer. Tens of thousands of them. Remember that? Super rich injecting teen blood to stay young. Again, I think this is really rather a pre-COVID thing. I mean, I saw that on HBO's Silicon Valley, the Blood Boy episode, if you remember that. Pelosi calls House back to deal with Postal Service crisis. Postmaster General agrees to testify amid fury, claims a plot to undermine election. Voters in North Carolina received ballot forms with Trump face on them. I don't know what that means. Hollywood apocalypse. The rich and famous fleeing in droves. Fleeing to where? Where are they fleeing to? Really? Like, we've all heard the stories that they all have their redoubts in New Zealand. Is that where they're going to? Problem with, going to your redoubt in New Zealand is that you're not going to be able to work anymore. Oh no, want to flee city for suburbia? Think again. Oh my God, there's no escape. There is no escape. Pizza Hut files for bankruptcy. Trump says coronavirus is God testing me. The only way we're going to lose this election if this election is rigged. Well, probably true, actually. But of course, the Democrats have spent decades rigging elections. Parent now taller than dad. All right. Is that shameful? Really? Oh, Michelle O, ready for a close-up. I've talked about her many times on this stream that she has the ideal situation in the whole world, which is that she is beloved and yet she has no accomplishments. She's never done anything in her life. I quoted Kipling to this effect, that authority without responsibility, which is the signature of the harlot throughout the ages. Oh, John Kasich, I'm conservative for Biden. I've warned you for months and months and months before I was on this live stream. Don't call yourself conservative. because then you will find yourself on the same team as John Kasich. Rise of age moms. I don't know what that means. Boehner would rather set himself on fire than involved in 2020. No, he's probably going to weep. Remember when John Boehner was Speaker of the House of Representatives? And he was always bursting into tears at the slightest pretext. And you're thinking, how does someone reach that level of authority when you can't hear some story about a kid, I don't know, doing something or someone else's kid doing something without bursting into tears? Like, again, in this show, I mentioned that I've been reading a lot of the 19th century, and I've been reading about Alfred Dreyfus, and I've been reading about Franz Liszt. You know, it's commonplace that their children died when they were young. I mentioned Daniel. He was such a brilliant boy. Can you imagine being a father and having a son? Franz Liszt had a lot of trouble with Daniel Liszt because he had to push him and push him, push him to be a student, and became a good student, and then he became the best student, the classical student in France. And he died of tuberculosis at the age of 20. Can you imagine what it would be like to be a father at that time? Again, I have to say that I don't think that we really understand sorrow in the way that people of the past. Again, suffering as a whole, it seems there's not very much that happens to us where we are saying, oh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to people. And again, I mentioned Alfred Dreyfus, who spent years on Devil's Island. I mean, you could look it up just to find out how it was for a crime that he didn't commit and that the French army knew for the longest time that he did not commit. Or you can look at Franz Liszt, his misery with his children, and it was as if, I suppose it's something that we've lost now. This question, God said to a man, how much can I test you before you will still believe in me? Now let's follow this through to the end, because he always believed very strongly in God. But again, to many of us today, most of us today, this just seems absurd. Why did he not turn against God after all of the horrible things that had happened to him? But I suppose that's one of the greatest differences between then and now. Let's take a look at the Bulgarian horticulture specialist PhD, says KMG's had a few. YouTube 13 KMG, stay away from that slider. Slider? Not bored, says emotional incontinence, the mark of the new male. James Andrews says stream is really bad for me, can barely hear it, it breaks up so much. Well, I'm shocked. Shocked to hear that. Spilled scotch on my laptop once, did the same thing. Now, you don't. I've been through this experience, spilling liquid on my keyboard. You don't want to do that, because, then things stop working. Got to replace it. Nice place, Kevin, again, says Bulgarian horticulture specialist PhD. It is a nice place. But again, it's temporary. I don't know how long I'm going to be here for. Could be a couple of weeks, could be a couple of months. But it's better than living in a hotel, I have to say. Because living in a hotel is very quotidian, quite literally. You You're going to be there for a day or you're going to be there for a week, and that's as long as it goes. Ah, three sheets in the wind. No, I don't think so. I'm not even near three sheets in the wind. There are several recordings of Luke Ford where you can find the three sheets in the wind. You know. Now, Boris said we used to set scorpions on fire with hand sanitizer and have them fight. I don't know. That seems very unchristian. Emma Nimpton says California is an overpriced shithole. I haven't lived in California. I lived in California for 6 months in 1994, and it's tremendously expensive, But I suppose the thing that really bothered me most about Southern California was that Gertrude Stein famously said about Oakland that there's no there there. And Southern California, to me, was very much the same, as a whole. That was the center of this city. When I lived in when I lived in San Diego, it's like, where's the center of San Diego? Oh, here's the old downtown. Oh, it's deserted now. It's full of, drunks and drug addicts and crazy people. And everyone was always commuting from somewhere else. People were driving, 40, 50 miles to go to work, whatever. It was not a city as I understood a city. Jim Smith says, I live in a town of 8,000 with fewer than a dozen blacks. I miss the diversity. Well, God bless you, Jim. Jim Smith says, read Derbyshire's The Talk, non-black version. Yeah, again, let's pretend, let's live in opposite land. Oh, the black people are all terrified of the white people. Yeah, everyone knows that's not true. The comedian Bill Burr, I remember him talking a couple of years ago. You may have seen this. His difficulties with a pit bull that what his girlfriend had bought and he later inherited. And he's talking about how he's walking this pit bull down the street, and no one wants to be the same side on the street as him. And so he said, and I don't know, one wonders whether he would be this on this day. He said, black people say that white people, they move across the street to avoid them and it makes them feel bad. And Bill Burr said with his pit bull, he said, nah, it made me feel great. It made me feel like I was the king of the street. And seriously, I think that's how black people think. If people are going to literally avoid you, if they're going to cross the street to avoid you, well, that has to make you think. You have to think that you're special, right? Geis says social is only nice due to some of the geography topography. Oh, and South OC just looks nice to drive around with. Well, I have to say that I arrived in Southern California on Thanksgiving Day in 1994. And I knew that Thanksgiving Day was a very important holiday in the United States, but until I'd spent a lot of time, about 2 years in the United States before then, in various trips and such like. But so I arrived in San Diego on Thanksgiving Day, 1994, and so I'd flown from Vancouver. And my boss said, are you hungry? I said, yeah, I'm hungry. Yeah, let's get something to eat. Everything was closed. Everything was closed. Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, whatever, they were all closed. And then it hit me at the time that In the United States, Thanksgiving is a bigger holiday than Christmas is. And that's the sort of thing that you have to be there to understand. Um, I think about Southern California that really bothered me. I have to say that the dishonesty of people there. Everything is relentlessly positive, you know. And I come from a different kind of civilization. We expect a little more in terms of honesty from people. And everyone that I worked with, oh, you're great, you're fabulous, oh, you're wonderful, you're a rock star, or whatever. And I thought, this is obviously not true. I mean, nobody actually believes this. How do I know what they think about me? And actually, this was not really much of a surprise to me because years later I'd read Ben Stein on this. You may know him from Ferris Bueller, and he's written, you know, scripts and such. Like he's written for the American Spectator for 30, 40 years or whatever. But I was very impressed by him writing. You know, his father was chairman of Richard Nixon's Council of Economic Advisors, and he'd gone to Yale, and he was working in the Department of Commerce or whatever, in some terrible job. And then Norman Lear, of All in the Family fame, and many, many other sitcoms, said, "How would you like to move to California to work for me?" And Ben Stein thought that, well, this is a trick because I'm condemned to work in the government bureaucracy forever. Anyway, he went out to California, and he worked on Mary Hartman, and other films, whatever. And he became famous in his own right. But he wrote a book called California Dreams, which is really, really kind of outstanding. You know, the idea that some schmuck from the East Coast can show up California, and that he could become a star, a giant, a god, you know. But he tells this thing in this book about how he didn't understand his relations with Hollywood producers for the longest time. That he would come up with pitches for producers, and they say, "Oh no, this is great. This is outstanding. You're a genius. Where do you come up with these ideas, etc., etc., etc.?" So we walk out of the meeting and think, "Yeah, my success is assured," and they never hear from them again. And this happened several times. And then he finally figured out that when a Hollywood producer says to you, "Oh, this is tremendous, this is great, you're a genius," what it really means is, "Get the fuck out of my office and don't bother me again." Because as Stein pointed out, if they really loved your idea so much, they would be on the phone to the legal department while you were there in the office to pin you down so that you would not be able to sell this to anyone else. Now, my own experience in Southern California was not quite as extreme as that, but I found it very distressing that everyone was telling me how great I was, and I thought, really? Is that how you think? I'm a little suspicious about this. And then it hit me that, oh, I see. You're giving me praise in exchange for not giving me money. Because when I worked in San Diego, I was working very, very, very hard for a serious radio program. I was being paid two grand a month, and this was like a pitiful amount of money. But I guess that's how it works in SoCal, you know. Oh yeah, you're tremendous, you're a rock star, etc., etc. And I learned. I talked about this a few years ago on podcast I did, but a fellow who he ended up writing for the HBO show Silicon Valley, that all these people in these tech firms, the young people, oh, you're a rock star, you're outrageous, oh, you're outstanding, and then they get fired, and it's what? Why did this happen? Wasn't aren't I outrageous, tremendous, a rock star? It's just words. It doesn't mean anything, you know. I have to say that my view of this sort of thing, based on how I grew up, is very different from an American point of view. Because we always looked at the Americans as being showboats, you know, constantly, carrying on in a way that was unnecessary. And but there was a big difference between Americans and Canadians in those days, in that Canadian society was very much closer to British society than it is now. If you ever wonder why so many Canadians have gone to the United States and been so successful as writers, comedians, etc., I'll explain it to you. It's because we knew them, but they weren't us. That is to say that we understood them in a way they didn't understand themselves, because they couldn't understand themselves you know, in a separate way. That Canada knew America, but Canada was different enough from America such that people who would recognize things about America that Americans wouldn't recognize, they rose to the top, because Americans who grew up in that society thought that, like, why is this funny? Why is this noteworthy? You know. But you see less and less of that. It's pretty much disappeared in Canada right now. I mean, look someone like Seth Rogen, that fat fuck. That guy spent the first 8 years of his life in Canada, and you see anything in him that shows that he has any kind of the United States, that that any American, that any plebeian. Nah, nah. For decades, you see so many of the stars and Reynolds, but no. But obviously, the reason that America corrupt, but now seem essentially the same. Now, I see Neil Sari's KMG always surprises. I bought Einstein's book in a used bookstore years ago. I had no idea. I was a huge fan of Ben Stein. Well, I was a huge fan of the American Spectator magazine. It was called The Alternative when I started reading it in 1970. Bob Tyrrell edited it. And many of the best writers in America worked on the magazine. And it was so funny. You remember when you would read magazines and they would make you laugh? You remember that? Sounds crazy now. But there you go. Jim Smith says a long time ago, I came to LA for the first time. A cab driver told me this ain't no city, it's just a bunch of small towns. Al Guy says, I'm thoroughly enjoying this tangent I partially sparked. Boris says, Baltimore, age 75, affiliated with YEF, 20K a speech. He's making 20K a speech. I have to salute him. Okay. Because we are 10, 30 years away, really, from his celebrity. But, look, I have to really say this about Ben Stein. Ben Stein has been ferociously pro his whole, and whatever I may think about Ben Stein, I have to admire him for that. Okay, because he has stood for life against death, and that's the dividing line with me. That's the ultimate dividing line with me. Are you for life or for death? And Ben Stein is for life, and I have to love him, regardless of anything else he's ever said or done, because he has stood for life against death. Let's see what else we got here. Oversized magazine. The original American Spectator, or the alternative, was like Rolling Stone. It was a tabloid that was folded in half. I had all of these for like 10 or 15 years, and of course I've lost them all. Like I've lost all these things, but the American Spectator, aka the Alternative, was one of the magazines that I most loved in the whole world. One of the reasons was it was so funny, you know. And again, I have to say that, remember when journalism could be funny? Mad Magazine. Okay, I loved Mad Magazine when I was a child. I'll tell you a story. This would have been about, like, say, 1966. I would have been like, I don't know, grade six or whatever. And there was a teacher, a very, very strict teacher, a very good teacher in elementary school. And I would get Mad Magazine, and it was, you couldn't read it like in a couple of hours, quite a few hours to read through it all. And I would get the magazine and have it with my school books. And I'd go out to recess and I would read it, and I was such in a hurry to read it. And so this teacher in grade six, he saw me reading Mad Magazine, and he said to me, "Kevin, you're a smart boy. Why do you waste your time with comic books?" And that absolutely got me to the quick. Now, I've always been rather timorous fellow, especially with regard to authority. But I couldn't help myself in this regard, and afterwards, I was just shocked that I'd said this. I blurted it out at him. I said, "It's not a comic book. It's an intellectual satire magazine," which sounds absolutely, absurd, but that's the way that I felt at the time. And I have to say that Mad Magazine was, well, there's like 10,000 people who could tell you the same, that it was instrumental in my view of comedy. No question about it. Let's see. Smashing like that button says I'm a little late and watching on a delay, but the connection quality is possibly even worse than the old Flophouse. Might want to kill the video. All right. Brandon Smith says KMG on 144p looks as if to me as the surroundings look to him. No, the surroundings look crystal clear to me, actually. You see that? You see those flowers over there on the left? See all the natural light here? You see my new jacket and my new tie? Chokerkin666 says my sixth grade teacher was a sadistic bitch. I'm sorry to hear that. David Wright says Mad Magazine would give some of the biggest stomach-hurtling laughs ever as a boy. That's part of it, but I don't know, the whole satirical view of the world, I largely learned that from Mad Magazine. You're a kid, you go through life and you expect, okay, this is what must be because it is. And I read Mad Magazine and I thought, well, maybe it shouldn't. Maybe there's different ways of looking at this thing. Chokerkin666 says, I'm smoking angel dust again in honor of Kevin's imbibing of the spirits. Brandon Smith says, you look great, KMG. Al Guy says, looking dapper. I think I am looking dapper, and this is because I'm wearing new clothes. Love the new digs et al., says Brandon Smith. Yeah, Kevin can't get onto 5G. I am on 5G. I just discovered this today. Yes, I'm on 5G. I have been curious about this for the longest time. Like, why do we have to move on to 5G? And my understanding is that it means that your refrigerator and your front door and all the rest of it can communicate with the world. That the Internet of Things, that you're going to be under surveillance forever. I don't know why anyone would want that. But in any event, I do have 5G here. I went to Shaw today to get my internet. And I spoke to this nice young man. And he showed me what they had. And it started with $120 a month. What? $120 a month for internet? And I said, okay, go back a level. And he went back a level, and it was like $100 a month. Well, go back a level again. It's like $90 a month. No, go back to the furthest level, and $60 a month, and that's what I have with 150 gigabytes through. That I wanted. I don't want any else. Presumably, they're always trying to sell you their deals. We get all these variations. But I thought for the bare minimum of internet, a lot of money. There you go. Let's see, Neil Terry's favorite mad bit was in the letter page. Blondie holding up a copy and all making a face, knows the caption. Deborah Harry reads and asks, what is this shit? The guy says, Kevin is smooth. By the time he is done shaking your hand, you are already pregnant. That's sweet. That's sweet. Terribly sweet. Church of Entropy and yada yada yada. He looks like Super Mario Brothers. We have no idea what that means, but I will take that as a compliment. You need to call them up and get them over to fix it tomorrow. To fix what tomorrow? Exactly. I could have had 2 or 3 times as fast connection, or 2 or 3 times as fast, as much throughput. But this would take 2 or 3 times as much money, So I don't think that I'm likely to do that. I mean, I know when I was in a hotel in Douglas Street in Victoria that I was constantly getting these alerts that, the picture was breaking up. I with this beauty. It's not, but this is the best I'm ever going to look. Let's go back to the internet here and see what we got here. Connected till about 2 o'clock. This is on for about 5 minutes. What did we talk about on Theater Thursday? Well, we're talking about Michael Winner's 1974 film Death. And let me take you back to a time of 94. Let me take you back to it when a movie could come out and a movie could affect the conversation. That is to say, it have social, political effects or whatever. It sounds crazy. That's the way it was in 1974. The death wish was about vigilante. 1974, particularly in New York City. Yeah, well, mugged and mugging as a euphemism. It means a violent robber. Okay. Oh, you got mugged. Well, it was your fault. That was the way it was seen at the time. If some guy shouldn't have been there in the first place, huh? Now you can imagine the kind of resentment that resulted as the end of this, and in Michael Winter's 70 Death Wish, starring Charles Bronson, who plays an architect. Yes, he's an architect and objector. Stuhlin is that he is like the most Jewish ever. I'm all the time. Love America in the 70s, and he plays this Arizona gun. Okay, and I from the United States that even the Jewish Jews. It's very funny, but he pulls it off. I have to say, he really pulls it off. On August the 27th, we're talking about a movie about one of my CBC films. It's 55 minutes long, and it was something completely different for the BBC in that it was not the ability for these people, you know, it was a documentary in the way that documentaries were made. And of course, people who know Ken Russell for wild or demented films, the late 60s, 70s, 70s, and 80s, really surprised by this. December 3rd, I'll talk about a film by Elim Klimov called Come and See. Maybe this is the epic film ever made. An invasion of White Russia, Belarusia, and it's completely uncompromising. I see that it's not very good in actually, having happy film, unhappy film, dark film, light film, or whatever. But on the 10th, actually, all this is pushed back, I guess. No, it's not. Actually, it's the book club that's spoke back. This is good. September the 10th, a film by Robert Hamer from 1947 calls it It Always Rains on Sunday, which is set in the East End of London, in Bethnal Green, actually. And people talk about this being, kitchen sink drama. It's not really. It's much broader than a kitchen sink drama. It's really a remarkable film, and of course, it's about this couple, a married couple, where a young, well, good-looking, sexy woman has married a much older man. I told you all that I have read again The Dreyfus Affair by Piers Paul Reed, which is, they say that truth is stranger than fiction. Well, it's true. Because if you had, if anyone, a screenwriter or a novelist or whatever, had written the events of the Dreyfus Affair, his editor would say, no, this goes too far. It goes too far. You could say this thing about coming up on 21st in Plain Sight, and Davis, which is about Jimmy Savile. And I don't know, the contemplation of Jimmy Savile and his career is to make one think that actually the devil has taken over our lives. Because if you don't believe me, just do a Google image search of Jimmy Savile. One L in Savile. Savile. See his face, which is completely demonic, and was demonic from the 1960s. Deranged and demonic, and oh no, we're going to give you, we're going to put you in charge of a hospital. Yes, actually. And you think that couldn't have happened. Yeah, but it actually did. It was decades. On the 8th, the Once and Future King, which is Alfred Legend in its beautiful interpretation by T.H. White. Remember the 4th, I've been talking about this before, the 3-volume biography by Alan Walker, Hero Friend, which is a book which I try to read every year because, you know, there are a lot of men who are great men, but there are very few men who are great men and good men. And Francis was one of those who was both. And September 11th, one of the great American authors, Willa Cather, Death Comes for the Archbishop. So let's see what's going on in the chat. Here we go. Ontology, says Chugger. I don't know what that's referring to. I don't know. Recently, and Elio Geki came. He looks like Khrushchev giving to the Deccan West. See Mackie Buscemi, who played Khrushchev in Death of Stalin. And of course, I knew Khrushchev, you know, from when I was a child, and he was fat, right? I can't really disagree. I'm not in a position to do, you know, again. Bishop Entropy says this is a fun we've seen. We Claire call regular. Okay. Again. Brandon Smith says kids these days can understand the promise that the information superhighway held back when it was an information cul-de-sac. Well, you're dating yourself there, Brandon Smith, because the information superhighway was something that I heard regularly in the 1990s. In fact, there was a fellow who worked at Alberta Report. At one point, he was a chief political reporter. His name was Mike. I'm not going to last name because I don't want to embarrass him. But he was pushing this term. What was it called? The infobond? Yeah, the infobond, right? And he kept pushing us to use this term infobond. And it never got taken up. And afterwards, everyone was very relieved. Ugh. Yes, we've made a lot of mistakes in our time, but we never took that infobond thing. Yeah, it was also pushing the whole idea of censorship on television. You know, comprehensible things you get in the left-hand corner of your TV set, T12, TV14, TV16, and there's all these letters, just like, right? And apparently, this was all going to be, you could, you know, beep, 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 beep. And so none of these bad things would come to your child, right? Remember that? This was also a big thing in the 1990s, and it simply never happened. Because, I mean, anyone who watches TV, you know, the TV station, the TV show starts, and you're looking up this box there on the left, and what? What does that mean? What? No, never got it. No one ever got it. So two things from the 1990s: the word infobond, and also the fact that parents would be able to keep their children away through the use of a recognizably understated. That never happened either. let's see. Neil Terry says, "I love the international lack of care about various actors' accents and death and style. Some Russian, some Brit, some from New Jersey." Well, it's not as simple as that. It's been pointed out that Buscemi's sort of lower class East Coast American accent is Khrushchev was he was Ukrainian. He's lower class, you know. And of course, Marshal Zhukov, he speaks with a Yorkshire accent, you know. Ah, fuck German, you know. That and that in British cinema, not just British cinema, is kind of a shorthand. It means someone who is not going to be held, you know, back by any kind of prissy restraints, you know. You know, Inucci is very, very good with this. You see so many of these films where you have these people imitating foreign accents, which leads to so many, you know, different problems. Again, in Inucci's Veep, where one of the actresses that had worked with him in I'm Alan Partridge, she played someone who worked at clerk at a hotel. That she played the wife. Oh, she played the Prime Minister of Finland. And you had all these people, like thousands of people saying, "Oh, that's not really a Finnish accent." Well, I don't know what a Finnish accent sounds like. It sounds reasonable enough to me. I mean, it's not like, you know, if someone comes up with a French accent or a German accent or a Russian accent, and that accent is bad, I can say, well, that's a bad accent. But a Finnish accent? I don't know what a Finnish accent sounds like. Actually, this woman was actually tremendous in this part, and her role was repeated in Veep many, many times. The Finnish wolf, because she was so funny. The joke was that she had no sense of humor. Actually, she did have a sense of humor, but her sense of humor was not the North American sense of humor. So whenever Julia Louis-Dreyfus, you know, was telling a joke or saying anything to her, there was just this endless agony because, is this a joke? Oh, it's a joke. Oh, I understand your joke. Is that a joke? Really? It was really very good. So let's see. Brandon Smith, "I know what boys like, I know what girls want." Isn't that a song from the 1980s? I seem to remember that. Neil Terry says, "I love the international lack of care about the various actors' accents." Yeah, okay, we went through that already. So what else do we have here? Let's go through back to Drudge again. I'm sorry. This is very much rough and ready, this show, but I don't really have much of a choice here. Oh, virtual DNC. Any excitement? Michelle, oh, ready for close-up. Why? Seriously? Michelle Obama? She is a very unpleasant woman. I know that she is beloved, but seriously beloved by like millions of American women. But again, it's the prerogative of the harlot, power without responsibility, as Kipling wrote. This woman has never had a serious position in her life. She had some job in some healthcare in Chicago because her husband was a senator. And then when he left, the job was eliminated. He made her power the left way to say she married. The same way that Hillary Clinton did. Make it. But strange thing about Michelle Obama is that she really common sense that she believes that she's a tremendously worthy person, whereas There's really nothing to be said for her. Nothing. She is a horrifying looking woman. She's not charming. She's not able. What does she contribute? Okay, maybe she's a great wife to Obama, but why would that make her a beloved person? You want to go back in history, Eleanor Roosevelt, from the time of her husband's death in 1945, loved figure in America for her own right. Michelle Obama, not. Oh yeah, Michelle Obama. I'm thinking when I hear these people talk about how they love the American Constitution so much. Where is it in the American Constitution that the vice president gets to become dictator of the school lunch? Where's that in the American Constitution? No, of course, it isn't there. But of course, I mentioned before, you got Barack Obama. He's a man. Well, sort of a man. Sort of a feminine man. But he's surrounded by women. Wife, his two daughters, his chief of staff, his mother-in-law living in the White House, right? And Michelle Obama becomes dictator of America's school life. And she comes with the worst meals ever. It's just slop. It's vegetables and slop. And I don't know, roughly 100, 200, 300, 500 million lunches was dumped in garbage. The media decided that we're not going to make a fuss out of this because everyone loves Michelle Obama. They do? Why would they love Michelle Obama? There was nothing lovable about her at all. Nothing, really. Seriously, Hillary Clinton more lovable than Michelle Obama. But no, the fact that ferocious woman takes over his whole life and it is an absolute. No, we don't want to talk about this. And you go back, when you talk about democracy dies in darkness, how much time did the Washington Post spend talking about the absolute disaster schools resulted in a loss of, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars? Al Jai says, OJ the student is going to be taken out for assaulting Michael Smith. Watching the rich and famous exodus from California tells me how fornicated the state is. Choke 6 says you're 3 foot inch. What? Hey. Jim Smith, Michelle graduated Harvard Law School and passed the bar exam on her second try. No, she graduated from university. She didn't graduate. Well, yeah, I don't, frankly, seriously, because everyone believes you're a phony. I feel a tremendous amount of empathy. How when you really think and everyone thinks you're a phony and you're only there because of affirmative action. It just must be killing. YT says, okay, the high point of a career, says Jim Smith. Neil Terry says, 5 years ago, the damn base still didn't care about the working poor and free speech and avoiding war since Trump. They've won AIDS and all their good views. In the 16 convention, they had the Hillary Clinton met with Trayvon Martin's mother, Michael Brown's mother, and all this. Hey, where are the dads? That'd be another clip. What happened to the dads? Also, if one of my children had turned out to be Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown, I think I'd be a little shy about being brought into public. Actually, I'm a little shy about, the way that my children have turned out. But, no one is dragging me into a public forum. You understand? understand. But Trayvon Martin, you could look this up. It's true. He ended up where he got killed by George Zimmerman because his father and his father's girlfriend at the time just got so sick of it because he was so obnoxious and so obviously a thug that they kicked him out. That's how he ended up in a place where he died. So when I've seen a few days ago that Joe Biden, he was talking up Michael Brown. Oh, the outrageous killing of Michael Brown. Well, let's look at the evidence here. Brown and a Confederate. Michael Brown was 6 foot 2 inches tall, and he weighed 292 pounds. Maybe he could have been 6'3", 6'4", but okay, I'm gonna go with 6 foot. But he weighed 292 pounds, and he went into a grocery store in Ferguson, Missouri, and he stole a $50 box of cigars. Then he sent it to Hollow White to make, marijuana blunts. And so the little Bangladeshi, I think it was, storekeeper, tried to bar him going out. So Michael Brown strong-armed him. That constitutes armed robbery, which is a very serious crime. So him and his Confederate, they're walking down the street and the highway, where they're walking down the middle of the street, because of course they are. And the police comes, and his Michael Brown's Confederate, being not such an idiot as heads for the hills, Michael Brown keeps walking down the middle of the street. Police car rolls up. Michael Brown comes over to the police car. He's stopped in the jaw and tries to take his gun. And I'm thinking, well, this is the point where we all lose sympathy with Michael Brown, right? Well, just look at what Joe Biden was about it. That is to say, if you vote for Joe Biden, if Joe Biden becomes president of the United States, then the thugs are in charge. All bets are off. It is mesure. And as Jim Kunstler keeps trying to point out in his column twice a week, the media doesn't seem to be interested in this. The election of Joe Biden is the election of anarchy. It's the election of terror. That's what it is. Oh no, but we don't want to, say mean about Michael Brown. Michael Brown, the day that he died, he was walking on election workers, and he was talking to them. And he started raving about Jesus in a really creepy, crazy way, such that all the construction workers thought that, yeah, this is not going to end well. Everyone knew that Michael Brown was nuts and dangerous. But now he's become an American hero. Neil Terry says, hey, Mike Brown is 6 years drug-free. Give the guy a break. Yeah, this is a variation of the joke about Trayvon Martin. Yeah. Jim Smith says Steve Saylor at Veeder. Okay. Yeah, sure. Everyone should read Steve Saylor. And I love Steve Saylor, and I've known him for a long time, and he's great. Choking in 666 says, Trayvon's father got a tattoo of his son in Pharaoh's garb. Not even kidding. Yes, I have seen it. We was kings. It's just embarrassing because Trayvon Martin he called himself the no limit end man, okay? And then he got limited. And how was he the no limit end man? Because he was photographed with all these bills, showing the bills and the pistols, and it's like, oh, just stop. Just stop. How does that impress anyone? Years ago it used to make me sad. Now it just makes me weary, Oh, that guy got limited and we're supposed to be upset about it. Well, a guy who, shows like $100 bills, here's the Benjamins. and a pistol or whatever, and it's like you're looking to get limited, pal. Is there a possibility of showing, how would I say, showing pride without being a public enemy? Is that a possibility? I don't know. Maybe there isn't. Jim Simmons says Michelle Obama graduated from Harvard Law School in 1988, was admitted to the bar on May 12, 1989, suggesting she did not pass the Illinois bar exam at her first chance, but did at her second. Yeah, I'm not going to make too much of that because my understanding is I've known some smart people who didn't pass the bar exam the first time. That's a question of like, obviously, different states, different jurisdictions. Some are tougher than the other, but it's a question of how you put in your bar exam. Are you willing to make this the only thing you pass your bar exam on the first attempt or whatever? But how smart you are, in the same way that it's like graduating from university. Obviously, everyone wants a first class degree. So there's lots of people, highly intelligent people who graduated with a second or third class degree because they were doing all these other things when they were going to university. Neil Terry says, with dads, Joe and Kamala make sure that there's jail. LOL. Yeah, that's amusing to me because those of us who are old enough to know the 90s, Bill Clinton and Sister Souljah, that we need to put these black creeps in prison. And Joe Biden was one of those people who put the black creeps in prison. Now, well, that never happened. Who would have thought that? Look, everyone knows that the only reason that American cities are as peaceful as they are is because several million American blacks are being warehoused in prison. It's that simple. If they weren't being warehoused in prison, American cities would become unbearable. Actually, and since they're being let out of prison, that's exactly what is happening now. So, let's see. I think this is pretty much it for today. Again, very much rough and ready. Tomorrow I will have a more traditional show, researched and such like. I'm just glad that you're all here, and I'm glad that I'm here. And so thank you very much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m., 7 p.m. time. If you like this show or any part of it, I'd appreciate it if you would click on the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not done already. I'm living in yet another different place, and I'm not going to be here for very long. If you would like to contribute to this show, I would very much appreciate it, especially considering that I've been Dutchman of right-wing live stream. If you would like to contribute, my account is Kevin_Grace.com. Once again, Kevin_Grace@hotmail.com. If you're Canadian, you can contribute to me directly through interact at kevingrace@shaw.ca. And I will leave this in these days of social atomization and civilizational collapse. I do dearly wish that all of you, my dear viewers and listeners, manage to secure some kind of genuine human connection in order to ease the burden. Good night.